Hallo zusammen, einen wunderschönen guten Nachmittag. Jetzt kommt auch der Ton dazu. Ihr habt ihn schon vermisst, habe ich gerade im Chat gesehen. Also jetzt legen wir los. Jetzt beginnen wir mit unserem USA-Webinar zum Thema ESTA. Ich bin Christian Meuter vom Visit USA Committee Germany. Freue mich sehr, dass das Thema auf so ein riesiges Interesse gestoßen ist. Also statt jetzt sind wir 200 Leute im Webinar und es werden wahrscheinlich noch ein paar mehr. Das heißt, ESTA ist natürlich ein Thema, das sehr, sehr wichtig für all eure Reisen, für die Reisen eurer Kunden auch in die USA ist. Deswegen wollen wir da gleich mal ins Detail gehen. Wir werden Macharia Davis von Customs and Border Protection dabei haben, der sich direkt aus Washington DC dazu wählt und all eure Fragen beantworten kann, hoffentlich. Bevor es damit aber losgeht, möchte ich ein paar Worte noch zu uns selbst verlieren. Für all diejenigen, die mit Visit USA bisher noch überhaupt nicht in Berührung gekommen sind, davon kann es ja durchaus ein paar geben heute, möchte ich einmal ganz kurz noch erklären, wer sind wir überhaupt? Wer organisiert das Webinar hier überhaupt? Was ist das Visit USA Committee Germany? Wir bestehen aus 160 Mitgliedern, sind ein deutscher Verein, ein eingetragener Verein und wir sind ein Zusammenschluss aus ganz vielen verschiedenen Unternehmen, die alle eine Sache gemeinsam haben. Wir alle möchten Reisen aus Deutschland in die USA gemeinsam bewerben. Wenn ihr euch jetzt die Karte anguckt, die USA-Karte, alle blau eingefärbten Staaten sind Mitglied von Visit USA. Also es gibt jemanden von Travel Texas, von Visit Florida, vom Arizona Office of Tourism. Alle diese Leute sind Mitglied von Visit USA oder dieser Organisation. Zu denen findet ihr bei uns Informationen. Alle einzelnen Pins zusätzlich sind noch Städte oder einzelne Regionen, die zusätzlich zu den Staaten noch Mitglied bei uns sind. Also auch zu Phoenix zum Beispiel oder zu Detroit findet ihr bei uns was. Und dann auf der rechten Seite seht ihr noch ganz viele andere Unternehmen, also Reiseveranstalter über 25. Wir haben Airlines dabei, wir haben Mietwagengesellschaften, Campergesellschaften, Kreuzfahrtgesellschaften, viele Attraktionen. Es ist wirklich ein ganz, ganz bunter Mix und deswegen sind wir eben auch so ein guter Ansprechpartner bei allem, was ihr rund um die USA vielleicht wissen müsst. Das ist ein kurzer Exkurs zu, wer sind wir überhaupt und was machen wir überhaupt? Ich möchte euch nur ganz kurz noch unsere neue Website vorstellen. Also die alte, neue Website quasi. Wir haben ein großes Update gemacht. Manche von euch haben es vielleicht schon gesehen. wusa.travel heißt unsere Website. Habt ihr euch alle schon mal angeguckt, weil ihr darüber euch zum Webinar heute angemeldet habt. Aber es hat sich ein bisschen was getan. Seit gestern ist die Website tatsächlich online und bietet für euch sehr, sehr viele Infos, die ihr quasi auch im Alltag nutzen könnt. Wir gucken einmal ganz schnell zusammen auf die Website. Ich teile einmal meinen Bildschirm. Moment. So, und ich zeige euch einmal, wo ihr die wichtigsten Infos findet. Wir sind auf wusa.travel, das ist die Website. Wenn ihr euch einloggt als Expedient, als Reisebüro, als Mitarbeiter von einem Reisebüro, dann landet ihr hier. Ganz neu ist jetzt oben der wirkliche Reisebürobereich. Das heißt, ihr habt alle Themen, die wirklich nur Reisebüros, nur den Trade angehen, findet ihr gesammelt hier. Ihr habt verschiedene Kategorien, nach denen ihr die Themen sortieren könnt. Ihr könnt zum Beispiel sehr, 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 sehr viele Webinare sehen hier. Wenn ihr seht, Aufzeichnung, Aufzeichnung, Aufzeichnung. Zu fast allen Themen, zu fast allen Regionen haben wir Aufzeichnungen von Webinaren. Wir haben über 120 Webinare auf der Website. Aber auch, wenn ihr sagt, wir brauchen eine Bilddatenbank zu einem bestimmten Thema, findet ihr das auf der Website. Oder wie sieht es denn mit PEP-Angeboten aus? Wer bietet denn da was an? All das findet ihr jetzt in diesem Reisebürobereich hier oben. Wenn ihr jetzt aber sagt, okay, ist ja schön und gut, wir brauchen aber einfach ein paar Informationen rund um eine bestimmte Region zu einem bestimmten Partner, dann können wir jetzt hier uns die USA-Karte einmal vornehmen. Wenn wir jetzt sagen, wir brauchen Infos zu Arizona zum Beispiel, dann klicken wir logischerweise auf Arizona, sehen dann einmal, welche Regionen, welche Partner von Arizona sind denn Mitglied von uns. Zu denen gibt es dann hier verschiedene Informationen. Wir sind jetzt bei Visit Arizona, gucken einmal, was gibt es zu Arizona allgemein. Dann haben wir da das Profil von Arizona mit sehr, sehr vielen allgemeinen Informationen rund um den Grand Canyon State. Und wenn euch das noch nicht reicht, habt ihr unten drunter unfassbar viele Detailinfos noch. Also jede dieser Kacheln ist ein einzelner Beitrag zu einem einzelnen Thema. Auch das könnt ihr gerne filtern über diese Seite. Wenn ihr jetzt sagt, ich will mehr zu den Nationalparks in Arizona wissen, dann habt ihr all diese Themen zum Nationalpark. Wenn ihr sagt, oh, ich habe so einen Luxuskunden, der möchte was zum Thema Luxus erfahren, könnt ihr das machen. Wir brauchen mal einen Routenvorschlag für Arizona, findet ihr dann auch ganz schnell. Das heißt, da findet ihr super, super viele Detailinformationen zu all unseren Partnern. Wenn euch das noch nicht reicht und ihr immer noch Fragen habt, könnt ihr jederzeit über Kontakt- und Ansprechpartner herausfinden, wer ist denn für euch im Reisebüro tatsächlich der Ansprechpartner? Eine echte, konkrete Person, keine 0800er Nummer, keine Info-Ad-Adresse, die uns Fragen kostenlos beantworten kann. In dem Fall wäre es hier die Simone, meine Kollegin, bei der ihr euch melden könntet, die dann bei allen Fragen euch mit Rat und Tat zur Seite steht. Grundsätzlich, wenn ihr mal einen Überblick über Ansprechpartner braucht, könnt ihr das auch nochmal, das ist das Letzte, was ich euch jetzt nochmal kurz zeigen möchte, auf der Startseite auf alle Ansprechpartner gehen. Und dann findet ihr wirklich von all unseren 160 Mitgliedern die Ansprechpartner. Ihr könnt gucken, wer sind denn alles die Ansprechpartner für Kalifornien zum Beispiel und landet dann bei allen Kollegen und Kolleginnen, die für Kalifornien in irgendeiner Form zuständig sind. Das heißt, es ist wirklich, die Website macht sehr, sehr viel Sinn, kann euch viel bieten an Informationen, an Aufzeichnungen, an Webinaren und kann ich euch nur empfehlen, dass ihr das im Hinterkopf behaltet und auch die Website ein bisschen mehr in den Alltag integriert von euch. So, das war es jetzt aber von meiner Seite. So now it's time to switch to English. Macharia, now it's going to be your show. You're with Customs and Border Protection. Thank you very much for joining us. And well, the stage is yours. Tell us all about ESTA.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you to all of our other U.S. Visit Germany and committee members who took the time out of their day to join us for this call. We are extremely grateful to all of our partners and your efforts to keep travelers informed when visiting the United States. So today, I'm going to go over the basics of the Visa Waiver Program and some of the initiatives the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, has launched that are designed to enhance travel and the traveler's experience, not only the application process, but also the process when they arrive in the United States.
So yeah, one thing I wanted to add is that we did receive a lot of questions from you beforehand, from the participants. We will address these questions either at some point during the presentation anyway, or if any question remains open, we will take time after your presentation for all these topics and to discuss everything in detail. And also, if someone has a question popping up during the presentation, please feel free to ask them via the chat. We'll note them down and we'll ask them later. The only thing we would ask you for is to not ask anything about a very, very specific case, like my client has got passport number XYZ, and could you just check his application status, please? I don't think we're going to do that. If it's some general topic that you want to know about, please feel free to ask them.
Yeah, thank you, Christian, for that add-in. We will answer all your questions, and hopefully I will answer some of those questions during the presentation. So as I was saying, so the Visa Waiver Program, as we all know, allows 42 countries, including Germany, to travel to the United States for business and or pleasure. And of course, now that the NFL has become sort of a global sport and doing trips or games overseas, you can also come and travel to the United States to visit and watch an NFL game live in person. But of course, only if you're traveling to see the Detroit Lions. If you're traveling to see any other team, please do not travel to the United States. The Detroit Lions is my team, so only for the Detroit Lions for NFL games. But other than that, ESTA, or the Electronic System for Travel Authorization, is the actual system that determines if a traveler is eligible to travel under the Visa Waiver Program. So travelers or third parties, families or friends or travel agents can apply online or using the ESTA mobile app, which was launched last year. So let me go over the basics of what the visa waiver program is, some of the things you can do under the ESTA once you get an approved ESTA. So again, as always, you can stay up to 90 days. It is generally valid for 2 years or until the passport expires. And when we talk about applying for the application, we encourage travelers to apply for the application once they book travel, but no less than 72 hours before boarding, before the flight takes off. And then, of course, the application is currently only $21. Now, we have heard from our travel industry partners, there are a lot of spoof websites, and that's become a major issue and concern. A lot of these websites appear to be valid websites, but they're not. And they often charge exorbitant fees to expedite, as they say, an ESTA application, which they do not. So if you want to ensure that the traveler is applying on the official website, make sure it has the .gov at the end of that website. So it's going to be esta.cbp.dhs.gov. If it doesn't have that .gov, it is not the official website. Or, of course, you can always use the mobile application, which we believe is the most secure way to apply for an ESTA. Again, that mobile application is going to give you the most secure and most accurate application possible.
Yeah. And whenever it is more than $21, you're on the wrong website. That's the
Correct.
general rule. Never pay more than $21.
Yes. Never pay more than $21 unless told by CBP that the price.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but all right. So earlier I mentioned that CBP has made some strides in improving the overall traveler experience. The mobile app was designed to improve the application process, and MPC, Mobile Passport Control, is a different app, and it's designed to improve the arrival process for visa waiver program travelers who've traveled to the United States once before. It doesn't have to be under the visa waiver program. They just have to have traveled to the United States once before, on or after the age of 14. The mobile app or Mobile Passport Control app provides a faster and more efficient customer declaration arrival process. Travelers can fill out their information directly on their phone in the comfort of their own home or while they're waiting at the airport to board the plane, getting rid of the need to fill out papers and wait in long lines once you arrive here in the United States. Once you arrive in the United States, you would submit your information through the Mobile Passport Control, MPC, and then you'll be notified either by signage or via the app which lane to go to improve your processing. It's really that simple. So if you've traveled to the United States before, whether it's under the visa waiver program or in some other capacity on a visa, as long as you've done that on or after the age of 14, you can utilize the Mobile Passport Control MPC, and your entry process and admission process will be a lot faster than waiting in the long queues with everyone else. Another security feature we added in the website, or we will be adding in the website in Q2, is the uploading of a selfie in addition to the biographical page in the website. So you'll be uploading your selfie in addition to that biographical page on the website. In addition to that, we'll be making some security updates to the mobile application as well. The mobile application, for those individuals who are now submitting the mobile application as third parties, family members, or friends, will also have that ability to upload the image of the actual traveler and not do the selfies. Currently in the mobile application process, if you are a third party and you identify yourself as a third party, we still go through the process of capturing your image. However, in Q2 of 2025, that process will be removed. And if you identify yourself as a third party, because we don't necessarily need that person's biometrics, we need to ensure that the traveler's biometrics is accurate. So we'll be asking those individuals as well to upload a selfie image of the traveler. And that will all happen in Q2 of 2025. In addition to that, I just want to go quickly over question 9, because I understand that there are some concerns about how that is still worded in the application. Question 9 covers all of the SSTs, state sponsors of terror. By law, we have to phrase the question in the way that it is phrased. It simply asks whether you've traveled to or from these particular group of countries on March 1st of 2011. As it relates to Cuba, we know that Cuba was not designated as a member of the SST list until January of 2021. We would ask that individuals not self-select, allow CBP to do the vetting we need to do. So when we answer the question, if you did travel to Cuba before January of 2021, still say yes. There'll be a drop down. We'll ask you what the specific dates are, and CBP can do the vetting and move forward. If you traveled before the designation date, it should not impact your travel or your ability to get an approved ESTA. However, if you traveled on or after the designation date, then we would encourage you to apply for a visa, because it's more likely than not that you will not receive an approved ESTA application. And that goes for all the other SSTs as well. So if you traveled to any of the SSTs, with the exception of Cuba, before March 1st of 2011, then that should not have an impact. If you traveled to any of those countries on or after March 1st of 2011, then we would encourage you to apply for a visa, because more likely than not, you will not qualify to participate in the visa waiver program. Mm-hmm. Okay, and last but not least, we just want to say that we are extremely excited that travel is back, and that the visa waiver program, as we like to say, powered by ESTA, has played a key role in that process of bringing travelers back to the United States. And we just want to emphasize how easy it is and how quick it is to actually just apply, either using the website or the more secure method using the mobile application to apply for an ESTA. We are finally reaching numbers where we're reaching somewhat very close back to 2019 travel as it relates to Germans traveling in the visa waiver program. So we're really excited about that. And we really thank you guys for your efforts and pushing that information out. And we also would like to remind individuals that the denial rate is really less than 1%. So we are really excited. It's really easy. It's really simple. And 9 times out of 10, the vast majority of individuals will have an approved ESTA, or will get an approved ESTA, and the U.S. will welcome them with open arms, and they can travel to the United States using this process. So again, I want to thank you guys for your attendance and your participation. And now I'm going to open the floor up for questions as it relates to the ESTA program.
Thank you very much, Macharia. Yes, we did receive quite a few questions. Oh, by the way, there's a lot of resources available. You will be able to download a brochure about how to use the app, how to use the mobile passport control. They will be available now in this second, so you should be able to download these brochures in this instance.
Yeah, if I may, real quick before we go on, I do want to say that we do, as Christian said, you can download the app using this QR code. So we actually reach out to our stakeholders using 2 methods. One is the toolkit that you see here, that mobile app marketing toolkit, and that gives you all the information about mobile passport control. It'll give you information about the mobile app. It'll give you how-to guides, and it also give you certain marketing tools and some ads and things that we've built already, or copy, as we like to say, that you can use when you want to talk about the mobile app and or the mobile passport control and ESTA in general. And then in addition, we also have what we call ESTA Latitudes. ESTA Latitudes is our quarterly flyer that we push out. And of course, we only do it quarterly, and it gives you all the major updates that within ESTA and anything that would impact the visa waiver program traveling in general. So that is a really good tool if you want to stay up to date on all that information. Please feel free to take this opportunity to utilize this QR code, sign up. You can download the mobile app marketing toolkit, and you can sign up for ESTA Latitudes. And last but definitely not least, I do want to direct you to the number that's on this slide. That's for the Traveler Communications Center, and that is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week operation that is designed to answer some basic questions for travelers if they're having difficulty with their ESTA. It's really simple to check the status of your ESTA using the mobile app or online. But if you have additional questions and those tools are not available to you, or you want some other sort of assistance, you can utilize the Traveler Communications Center to do that.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you very much. We're going to get to the questions right away. Oh, yeah, that's one of my topics before we get to questions. The next webinars that we're going to have will take place in January. You will receive the registration links for that. So on January 14th, we will take a look at Travel Wisconsin and then have some travel agent discounts and offers with vacation at sea for cruises to the US. And on January 28th, we're going to take a look at Visit Dallas and Park City in Utah. So that's our next webinars coming up. So just so that you can note down the dates already. Now it's on to the questions. We have a lot of general questions concerning the application process, with which I think we're going to take care of first. One topic that comes up again and again is the address, the first initial address that you have to post in the ESTA application, your first hotel or the family you live with for the first nights. If that changes, if you rebook your travel, if you come back on the same ESTA and the address is a different one than in the first trip, of course, should people do something about it, or is it fine like this?
Right. So you can, if you so desire, you can go into the ESTA application and update that address, but you're not required to do so. The address primarily is not necessarily for CBP per se. It's really so that if something happens and the embassy wants to reach out, or something happens in Germany, or for some reason the government needs to reach out and contact you, primarily your government reaches out and tries to reach out to contact you for some whatever reason, then we'll have a starting place to go, like, say, okay, this is the last information that we had where this individual is going to be. So that's what that information is used for primarily. So if you want to update it, you can, but you're not required to update it to get, and you definitely don't have to apply for a new ESTA application if the ESTA is still valid.
All right, perfect. That's a great answer. Next one. What happens, or what should people do if they enter something incorrectly or made a mistake, or even if they did not receive a registration confirmation or application confirmation?
Right. So if you didn't receive a confirmation, then I would really want to make sure we entered the email address correctly, because you have to verify the email address in the application just to get a code. So make sure you're checking your spam to ensure that you have that information or that email was entered in correctly. And if you entered something in error, then depending on what you entered, we would ask you, of course, to make sure you go back during the application process. We ask you to verify each field, but I understand that some people just click through. We understand that happens. But we do ask you to verify. But depending on the nature of what you inputted incorrectly, it could really jeopardize the status of your application. For instance, if you entered your passport number in incorrectly, or if you entered your name or date of birth incorrectly. In those cases, you would need to, if you need to resubmit, if the website for some reason isn't allowing you to start a new application because it's saying that the passport number was used already with a different date of birth, and in those cases, you would need to contact the Traveler Communications Center. That would allow us to cancel the application on the in the back end, and then allow you to reapply. If you notice an error, I would make sure, especially if it's something that relates to your biographical data, and your passport information. Make sure that's corrected, because as far as CBP is concerned, if the information is incorrect, then that person does not, even if they receive a response back that says that ESTA is approved, that ESTA is not a valid document because it's not associated with the biographical data that's listed in the passport. The last thing I'll say about that is one of the reasons why we encourage people to use the mobile application is because it eliminates most of those errors. When you use the mobile application, you scan the MRZ, and when the MRZ is scanned, we unlock the chip, and that all of that information is validated through the chip and us unlocking the chip and scanning the MRZ. Whereas when you're using the website, you do have a potential to have some human error in that, where you input words incorrectly or numbers in incorrectly. So that's another reason why we would encourage you to use the mobile app over the website.
Mm-hmm. All right. So here's the Traveler Communication Center once again. Also, as you said, in case you need to cancel an ESTA application because it's wrong or outdated, that's also where they need to contact, where the number to contact.
Right. If the website will not allow you to just resubmit a new application, then you will need to call the number listed as for the Traveler Communication Center, so that we can do it in the system and then allow you to reapply. Perfect.
So next question. If a travel agency submits the application on behalf of a customer, of a client, what should the contact address be? Should it be the travel agent's contact address or the email address or the client's email address?
We would encourage you to use the client's email address. And the reason why is because ultimately it's the client's or the traveler's responsibility to know the status of their application. In addition to that, because status of applications can change, I don't think the travel organizations want to be on the hook for constantly checking what that status is and then communicating that back to the traveler. I understand putting the information in, doing that for them. That's a great service. We encourage that. But as far as letting the traveler know what their status is, that's really the traveler's responsibility. And we want to make sure that they have access to all the information and the current status of their application.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Then the next two questions are concerning bookings on very short notice. So if it may be less than 72 hours, is there a difference if you apply via the app or via the website, or is it the same processing time?
It is the same processing time. It is possible that an application can be approved faster than 72 hours. We just would not encourage that, especially if you're talking. I guess if it's last minute, you do what you have to do. But I would encourage people, if you're going to do something like that, for accuracy's sake, please use the mobile application, because again, the mobile application is going to be the most secure and most accurate, give you the most accurate information.
Perfect. Yes. So yeah, if you have an ESTA and you come to the US several times on that ESTA, are you allowed for the total stay to be over 90 days? So it's just 90 days at a time, right? It's not a total of 90 days stay that you have.
That is correct. So it is 90 days for each admission into the United States. There's only one exception, and that is if you travel to the United States and then you go to Canada within that same admission period, you go to Canada and or Mexico or to one of the small island groups surrounding the United States, or that allow that travel. What happens in those cases is that, for instance, we'll just use Canada, for example. If you're on a road trip and you travel into the United States and you're admitted, and then you travel to Canada and you're in Canada for, let's say, 2 weeks, and then you come back to the United States. In that particular case, that period is considered one admission period, because you didn't make what we call a meaningful departure, which means you didn't return home, you didn't stay outside the country more than 30 days. So you didn't make a meaningful departure. So if you haven't made a meaningful departure and you traveled to Canada and or Mexico, that's considered one admission period. And in that particular case, the 90 days will still count. So it would start from the first time you were admitted. It would include the 2 weeks you went to Canada, and then your departure time would still be that 90 days. Now, if you make a meaningful departure, meaning you went back to Germany or wherever you were going to go, you stayed out for greater than 30 days, you made that meaningful departure, and you come back to the United States, then you will receive a new admission period, and that admission period will be 90 days.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Got it. If you apply ESTA for a child's on a child's behalf, how old can the photo or the passport photo be? Is there any restriction, especially with traveling with smaller children, I guess?
Yeah, there are no restrictions on the age of or the passport photo. Because CBP does not collect the biometrics of those under the age of 14, you will not be required if you're using the mobile application or if you're submitting an application on behalf of a child when the selfie becomes a part of the website to upload a selfie. So those individuals who are under the age of 14 are outside of what we call our biometric collection mandate. So you are not required to upload those photos. You will be required to upload the biographical page, but you will not be required to upload any additional photos for those individuals.
Okay, got it. A very interesting question coming up. If someone's working remotely for a German company under ESTA, is that allowed? So if it's like, let's say, a digital nomad asking if they could travel under ESTA to work remotely from the US for the German company they work for at home as well, for example, for 2 months or so. So if they just want to spend 2 months in Florida, work for the German company from the beach, is that allowed?
Right. So this question is really interesting. The quick answer is yes, it's allowed if the purpose of your travel, remember, it's all about what the purpose of your travel is. So if you say that I want to go on holiday and I happen to work online for, I don't know, German company that makes widgets. I get paid from the German company in Germany. I am not doing anything that remotely, like, in the United States that someone else would be normally doing as a regular job or anything like that. I am just on my computer enjoying life at the beach. Then yes, that is permissible under ESTA.
Okay, perfect. That sounds good. I don't know how you want to answer this. Is it better to apply for a single ESTA instead of a group ESTA?
There is no real difference how those applications are treated. The only time I would say that there could be a hang up for individuals who are applying in group, because the group ESTA really only allows people to make one payment. So that's the difference. Instead of going through the process of paying for each individual application, you just have to submit one payment, and that's the payment for the entire group. The cost is still the same for each application. It's just you're making the payment all at once.
Yeah.
If someone has traveled, right? So in that group, if you know that your cousin likes to travel to Iran and or to Cuba, right? And you put that on the application, then that could delay the processing for the entire group. Sure. So in those small instances, because it's all about how the payment is collected. So in those small instances, I would say in that case, don't apply in a group. Let that person apply by themselves, and everybody else can apply in the group. Yeah. But other than that, then there is no real difference in how those applications are processed outside of the payment.
Got it. Well, I'm afraid I know the next answer, but where can the customers call if their ESTA is not approved, but if out of one group, one's ESTA application is not approved, but the other family's members are approved? Is there anything they can do about it? Can they call anywhere? But I'm afraid a denied ESTA is a denied ESTA if it's your family or not, right?
Right. If it's a denied ESTA, it's a denied ESTA. You really have to remember there is a clause in there where it's in the ESTA application where it's essentially says something to the effect that you waived your rights and that the ESTA application, the adjudication, or you waived the rights to protest to court, and it's a long legal space in there that sort of outlines that process. The long and short of it, in accordance with 8 U.S.C. 1187, which is the U.S. code that governs ESTA, the only way to overcome an ESTA denial is to apply for a visa. Now, if the person answered yes to question 1, in those cases, you can reapply. That's the health question, right? Mm-hmm. And if it is a minor child, and this is not always the case, but if there's a minor child and you mistakenly put that minor child was a terrorist, or it happens, or is a criminal, in those cases, you can call the TCC, and an officer will review it and make a determination and could potentially cancel that application and allow the minor child's application to be resubmitted. And when we say minor child, we're talking about someone under the age of 14, just so everyone is tracking. Mm-hmm. So, but outside of those limited cases, once an ESTA is denied, the ESTA is denied. And the only way to overcome that denial is to apply for a visa. You can always call. By all means, please call. You can always call. But unfortunately, the officer or the customer service representative on the other end will probably tell you the exact same thing if it doesn't fall into one of those limited cases.
Okay, got it. So someone was told it's no longer possible to insert their passport number manually, but they have to upload it via a phone or via the computer. Is that correct? And B, if someone is not able to upload a passport via a computer, is there still any possibility to manually insert the passport number?
No, you have to upload your biographical page. That is required, whether you're doing it, whether you take a picture of it on your phone or have someone else take a picture of it and send it to your email address, and then you upload it on the website, or you're using the mobile application and it scans the passport. But uploading the biographical page is a requirement. Now, once that happens, particularly in the website, you can make adjustments if for some reason the system read the numbers incorrectly. We encourage you to verify the information is accurate and make adjustments as necessary. But you have to upload your biographical page. That is a requirement.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Is there any way to apply without an email address?
No.
No. Thought so. How can I cancel the visa? I don't know if they mean the ESTA or the ESTA application. I'm not really sure what the question is about. So if I made an application for ESTA, can I cancel it afterwards?
Yes, you can actually cancel it. And how you can cancel your ESTA application is by starting a new application. If you start a new application, and if you start a new application and your ESTA application has greater than 30 days, or your current valid ESTA application has greater than 30-day validity period on it, a pop-up will come up and it'll say, hey, you currently have a valid ESTA application. Are you sure you want to proceed? And when you say yes, what you are in fact doing, because you can only have one valid ESTA application at a time, you are canceling the existing application that's in the system. And then, of course, if you do not complete that new application and I either don't pay for it, then that application will also be deleted after 7 days. And you will not have a valid ESTA. So there is a way to do it.
Okay.
I don't know why someone would do it, but there is a way.
Yeah. I like the next question. I know your answer. In case your ESTA is denied, does it make sense to apply for a new passport and thus reapply for the ESTA if the ESTA has been rejected? Should I just get another passport?
No. That does not make sense. What you need to do is just apply for a visa.
Are there any plans to make it mandatory to use the ESTA app, or will the website always or remain an option for the time being?
The ESTA website will remain an option for the foreseeable future.
Okay, got it. Okay, so that's the questions we have for the application process in general. So let's take care of the state sponsors of tourism now.
State sponsor of tourism?
Terrorism. Sorry. Germany is the state sponsor of tourism, I guess. So what's that question about? 1 second. If a passport contains an entry stamp from a restricted country, such as Iran, can an ESTA still be applied for a layover in the US? For example, on the way to Mexico? I don't think so. No. So it doesn't matter if it's just for a day or half a day or 2 weeks. It's
right. It doesn't matter if you once your airplane touches ground in a restricted country and or a state sponsor of terror, from a CBP perspective, we consider that you visited that space and you will need to apply for a visa.
Yeah. Then we do have the rumor or the secret tip to just use either a second passport if you've been to Iran, or if your passport is outdated that you went to Iran with, the new passport won't show it. What's your take on that for the SSTs?
I will say this: if you attempt to be less than candid on your ESTA application, then the U.S. government will find out. And then when that happens, your ESTA will be denied, and the ability to get a visa will be severely compromised, because what we will perceive is the traveler was less than candid and was attempting to be deceptive. So if you do that, then I would, you do that on your own risk. And let's say, for instance, you do for whatever reason get an approved ESTA, you show up, and then it is discovered at the port of entry because your biometrics matches, because we collect your biometrics. So when you get the biometric hit, then you are denied at the port of entry. Now you are a visa waiver refusal. And if you're a visa waiver refusal, then you are permanently barred from the visa waiver program. And then, of course, your ability then to get a visa or travel to the United States in other capacity will be severely compromised. Not to mention the money's lost, on taking that sort of, it's not worth it.
No. So if you lie or try to deceive on purpose, and you guys will find it out, it will have serious consequences. No, but I just want to make sure that everyone understands this correctly. If you catch them lying or being deceptive or being less than candid, it can have serious consequences.
It can have serious consequences.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So, again, I can answer this question. Your clients have been to Cuba last year. They want to go to the US. Yes, they will have to apply for a visa. It's not possible or very unlikely to get an ESTA if you've been to Cuba last year, right?
Correct. Apply for a visa, apply now.
Yes. And really take into consideration that the visa waiting times are considerable at the moment. So apply for visas as early as you can. Can I apply for an ESTA if I was only in Cuba for transit, or do I need a visa as well?
You need a visa.
You need a visa. Yeah. Can you please give us a list of SST countries? That's Iran, Iraq, Cuba after 2021. Who else is on there?
Okay, so the SST countries SST countries and restricted countries. So we're talking about the questions, the countries listed in question 9. So that's going to be Iran, Iraq, Libya, North Korea, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, Yemen, and Cuba.
All right. Yeah, and I'm sure you will include that in the follow-up as well for everyone's information. So
yes, we can do that. Again, these are all the questions, all the countries. So it's the SST and restricted countries are what's listed in question 9.
Okay, perfect. So we got that covered. That was visa transit in Cuba. Yeah, so it doesn't matter. Again, the question people keep hoping that if they've only been in Cuba for a very short time, it's different. No, unfortunately, it's not. No matter how short your stay in Cuba was, you need to apply for a visa. Oh, I missed one question concerning the application process. If not all first names are listed in the machine-readable part, but they are listed under the first name item, should this be changed in the system? Because the system automatically lists them only from the bottom line. I'm not really sure what the exact process is. So if not all first names are listed in the machine readable part.
Right. We understand that the machine readable zone is a limited space. So in some countries, they do abbreviate the name or cut off the name if it has too many letters. In those particular cases, we want to make sure that the last name, you can adjust the application. So when you're going through the process and you're verifying each field, you can expand on your name. So if you have an extended last name or an extended first name that is outside the scope of what's in the MRZ, we would say just make that adjustment when you're verifying those fields.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So there are 2 more application questions, follow-up questions. How do I upload a selfie when applying via the website? So you would need to send a selfie via email to your computer and then upload it from the computer, right?
Correct.
Correct. If someone has a new name, if they get married, but the new passport is not there yet, should they wait or start the process already? But you can't apply for a new ESTA if the passport is not. Oh, you might have the passport number already. Oh, that's a tricky one.
Well, I will say this: if you have, the ESTA is associated to whatever the valid passport document is. So if you are traveling and you have a new name, but you have that old passport and it's still valid, and you haven't received your new passport yet, then the ESTA, since you applied, is going to be associated with the current valid document. Once you receive your new passport, then you will need to, with your new name, you'll need to reapply using your new name, your married name, and your passport. If you can wait, then I would encourage you just to wait so that you don't have to reapply.
Got it. Should I use the mobile passport control if I have a short connecting flight or short connection time? Does that make sense? Yes.
Yes, mobile passport control is going to get you through there faster. And again, like I said, you can do the vast majority of the mobile passport control entry information before you even leave for the airport. You can do it the moment you get your flight information. You just can't submit it until you land, but that's the case in all instances. So you can upload your information. It's going to ask you for your passport information. It'll ask you to take an image of yourself. You can have all that information saved. You can do it as a group, so you can submit it for all your family members in that group, and then, or at least upload all that information, have it as one complete package. And then once you land in the United States, you get a signal. You either have Wi-Fi or you paid to have international service on your phone. You hit submit. Almost instantaneously, the app will then alert you, okay, your information has been submitted. And depending on what airport you're in, because some airports do it slightly differently, you'll either be notified through the app to tell you to go through this lane or that lane, lane 13 or whatever lane they are using for mobile passport control, or you'll have signage at the airport directing you to go to the mobile passport control lane, and then you go through that lane and then you'll be processed.
Okay, so not only with short connection times, but usually always. It's advisable to use MPC, right?
Right. It's valuable to use MPC unless, of course, you just enjoy standing in line. If that's
if that's your hobby, then you should go
then
ahead.
by all means, go for it.
The next question is very open. Is it difficult to get a visa after visiting Cuba for a holiday trip?
No, it isn't. And typically speaking, once you've been denied an ESTA, then you can get an expedited, not always, but typically you can get an expedited appointment to get a visa. But I would still encourage people to apply, as soon as you are booking your trip, because what you don't want to do is wait, to the last minute. And then if you've traveled to somewhere, you're waiting for that ESTA to be denied. It is denied. And now you're really pushing up against it, trying to get a visa within, 2 days or something. That's a very difficult situation to be in.
Yeah, got it. Okay, so let's move on to the payment process. It's just 2 questions. Mm-hmm. The first one, how long does the credit card have to be valid for the payment to be okay? I guess if it's valid on the date that you pay and the payment goes through, it can be valid until tomorrow, right?
Yeah, that's the first I've ever gotten that question. I would imagine it has to be valid at the time that you are processing the payment.
Yeah. So as long as the payment goes through,
as long
as you're fine.
You should be fine.
Yeah. Okay. I have clients that fly to the US but come back by cruise. Is there a possibility on the ESTA app to apply for a visa, for an ESTA, even though there's no flight back, no return flight, because they're going back via cruise ship.
So they don't have a round. I know the requirement typically is that you have a round trip ticket, but in this particular case, they're saying they have a scheduled departure on a cruise. You can still apply on an ESTA if you have a scheduled departure, a pre-purchased departure on a cruise line. Yes, you can still apply and enter on an ESTA.
Perfect. All right. So let's see what else is on that list. Can the MPC be used if you have applied for a new ESTA, have a new passport, and are traveling to the US for the first time? Oh, I need to sort that in my head first. Can the MPC be used?
I can answer that question. Okay. The answer is no, and the reason why is because this is your first time traveling to the United States. Again, you have to be a return traveler.
Yes,
so as long as you're a return traveler, meaning you've traveled to the United States in any capacity, legal capacity, obviously, on or after the 14th birthday, which means that we've collected your biometrics, because that's the real key. So you're within our biometric mandate. We've collected your biometric once. And then you're able to travel again using the MPC if you're entering under the visa waiver program.
Yeah, got it. Do you also need ESTA for a transfer to Canada, for example?
If you are landing or transiting the United States in any capacity, you need to apply for an ESTA.
Yeah. So then we do have a few questions concerning media-related topics. Journalists traveling to the US or being invited to travel to the US to write about something. So in general, can you just explain in which cases does a journalist, a blogger, an influencer need a visa, or in which instances is it okay to travel on an ESTA?
All right. So if a person who identifies themselves as a journalist in any capacity is traveling for the purpose of writing an article, blog, or something that is going to be published either online or in a magazine or in any sort of journalistic capacity, then that person from the U.S. perspective is a journalist and needs to get a visa. If the person is not traveling in that capacity and just happens to be visiting Disneyland, then that person can travel under an ESTA. But if you are inviting journalists to write about your vacation package, then you are inviting journalists and not regular travelers, and they need to get a visa because they're entering in that capacity.
Follow-up question on that. If someone is traveling, it's like a destination marketing organization, right? Traveling with an artist, like a singer, a musician, whoever, who does not get paid, but who is performing in the US.
Right.
So they invite him on the trip, but he won't get any money for it.
Right. So this is a close one. So if the person is coming in the capacity of a performer and their intent is to have a real, like a performance, and that's what they're doing, then they need to enter in as under the appropriate visa, because it's about what your intent to travel to the United States is. Now, if on the other hand, you are inviting that person and you all just happen to go karaoke or something to that effect, then in that case, then that person can do karaoke and that'll be fine. I would just ask that you let me know as well. I'll pay to enter the event because I like to karaoke, and you dazzled by the vocal stylings of Macharia Davis.
Okay, you got to get your invitation for the karaoke evening.
Yes. Karaoke. I'll pay my way. I just want to be there.
So yeah, and we talked about that scenario before. So if a destination marketing agency invites a business partner, a tour operator to the US just to attend either a fun event or a business conference, they are good to enter on an ESTA, right? If they're not,
you can participate in a business conference or anything like that on an ESTA. Yes, you can.
Yes. In these cases, should they have any additional documentation, and like an itinerary or an invitation, or would anything support or help?
You can, but it's not required. If you're traveling there, like I said, if you're traveling just to attend a conference, you can bring that if you want to. That doesn't hurt, but it is simply not required. Sometimes an officer may ask, what conference you're going to, and they may inquire about that, but others may not ask that question. So it's not a bad thing to have it, but it's not required to present it.
Okay, perfect. Do I need a visa when I'm accompanying a tourist group from Germany and back? So yeah, a travel agent organizes a trip to Florida, a 2 weeks trip for Florida, and he accompanies the group. Does he need an ESTA or does he need a visa?
Wait, say that again, please.
So it's a group of travelers, but the travel agent organizes the trip and they're his clients. So he flies to the US with his group of clients and organizes the trip for them. So they're on a 2 weeks.
They can travel under ESTA.
Okay. And the travel agent as well?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. Follow-up question for the MPC. You cannot use MPC with children under 14. Is that correct?
You can use MPC with children under 14. They just, again, because they're not in the biometric collection mandates. We say that you can, if as an adult, you need to have traveled to the United States once before in order to apply. But for children, that doesn't apply. They still need to have traveled to the United States, but that doesn't apply for children. Okay.
I think we need some further clarification on the MPC on when you can use it and when not. So you must have been to the US before you can use MPC. If it was another passport I've been to the US with, can I still use MPC? If it was another ESTA I've been to the US with, am I still able to use MPC? So these questions seem to be popping up again and again.
Yeah, so I'll just try to make, if as an adult person, you would need to travel to the United States on or after the age of 14, and be this time traveling under the visa waiver program. The first time you enter the United States, it could have been in any capacity, and this is as an adult person. So we're talking about adult travelers. You can travel again using MPC if you're entering using the visa waiver program. It just has to be your second time traveling to the United States. It doesn't matter if it's on a different passport. It doesn't matter if you traveled the first time you traveled on a visa or anything like that. All as an adult, right? If you're trying to use MPC, you just had to make that trip to the United States once before in any legal capacity.
Okay, no matter if it's the same passport, no matter if it's the same ESTA, you just have to be there once without MPC, and then after that you can use MPC.
Correct.
Got it. All right. If I have to apply for a visa in case of SSTs, how long is that visa valid? Do you know?
Visas are typically valid for 10 years. There is no distinction. If you're applying for a B1, B2 visa, that is, that visa called the Bridges visa now, we used to call it the Lincoln visa. I believe now it's the Bridges visa, will be valid for 10 years.
Okay, got it. So we have like 5 more, I guess. Customers have a current ESTA with a valid passport until February 25 for the trip in January 2025. They've already applied for new passports, which they plan to pick up only after the trip to the US in January 25. As long as the new passport hasn't been picked up and the old one is still valid, the ESTA is good, right? Yeah, we covered that topic
correct
just a few minutes ago. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so we talked about that. So there is a client that has a valid ESTA at the moment, but she is facing a conviction next year. So she will be trialed next year, which includes a fine. Can she still travel to the US this December using her current ESTA, although her conviction will be next year?
No. That question, let's go back to what that question actually says. So that question actually reads, and it's an arrest question. It's number 2 in the admissibility section or eligibility questions, and it says something to the effect: have you ever been arrested or convicted of a crime? And then it says that resulted in serious damage to property or serious harm to another person or government authority. It reads something to that effect. So if you were arrested, then you should have answered yes to that question. If you were less than candid, then once we discover that is an issue, then the ESTA will be denied.
But I think in that case, she was arrested after the ESTA application.
Okay, so if you were arrested after the ESTA application, then what I would encourage you to do not to travel to the United States, because if we should get that information through our sharing agreements, and then your ESTA will probably more likely be denied. If it is not denied at that point, if you travel to the United States and then your biometrics match to an existing arrest record, then you'd be denied at the port of entry. If you're denied at the port of entry, then you're a visa waiver refusal. And then once you're a visa waiver refusal, you're permanently barred from the visa waiver program, and you will be returned back to your home country or the destination from which you came.
Got it. So yeah, it's a risk. A visa would be advisable.
Yeah, a visa would definitely be recommended.
Yeah. So the next question is, my clients made a group ESTA this year. Now I only can find one person from the group in this application. Even if I take the passport number of another person, which is in the group application, how can I prove the other persons? So it seems like only one person is popping up for the group again and again.
Yeah, this is a particular question. If you can, if they could shoot that to us and we could take a look at what's going on with that particular issue. It's hard for me to say without knowing.
So it's not like a general known issue or something. So this is a very specific thing. Okay. So yeah. So yeah, that's another transit question. So I think we can skip this. So yeah, and an important thing to say, like the 2 years that the ESTA is valid is from the day of approval, not from the day of your first arrival to the US.
Correct.
Yes. I think that's something we need to stress once again. We're getting there, Macharia. We're getting there. Just a few more. Follow-up question concerning bloggers or influencers. Oh no, not at all. Sorry, it's an application question. Do I have to specify all my social media accounts? What about WhatsApp? So because since quite a few years now, I guess you're asking for social media handles. Do people have to add them, and what happens if they don't add them?
So it is not a requirement. It is requested currently that you provide that information. Again, nothing negative will happen to your application because it's not a requirement that you don't provide the information. It just allows us to deconflict information. If for some reason there's derogatory information discovered, it allows us to either confirm or eliminate you as a potential. But again, it's not required. So if they choose not to provide, that's okay. But we just request that you do provide.
Mm-hmm. So now we have a follow-up question concerning the journalists and the business travel. What about a fam trip, like a visit Arizona, because we talked about them earlier, takes a group of German travel agents, 10 German travel agents, to Arizona just to show them the state and the scenery and hotel product, and then after a week they fly back home. Are they allowed to enter on an ESTA?
So are you saying, it depends on what the purpose of that trip was, right? So
it's a familiarization trip. They should get to know Arizona to be able to sell it in Germany.
If that's the case, then yes, they can enter on an ESTA. Again, when we talk about what's allowable or whether or not you need a visa, it's all about what the purpose of your trip is. If your purpose of your trip is to either participate in a business conference of some kind or any sort of activity like that, then you can apply for an ESTA and enter under the visa waiver program. If your purpose is to work on a specific task, i.e., you're entering as a journalist, you're entering as a performer because your intent is to perform, you're entering as an athlete, your goal is to participate in some sort of athletic event, and you are going to receive some sort of compensation as a part of a professional team, then those persons should apply for a visa. There are very limited circumstances where those persons should not. It's always better to default to the visa if you're stretching outside the lines of what a typical tourist or a business person is doing, i.e. participating in business conferences and or meetings.
Mm-hmm. But a travel agent fam trip, because a lot of travel agents are here, is fine with ESTA. All right.
Absolutely.
So what happens if someone with a German passport has a valid visa and now gets a second nationality? Is it necessary to apply again, like a second passport?
If you have a valid, I guess you're saying a valid ESTA is what they're asking for, then you have to use the passport that your ESTA is on. So if you're trying to enter in as a German, then you want to use your German passport, then you have to have a valid ESTA associated with that passport. Mm-hmm. If you are trying to enter in as a citizen of the UK, then you have to have a valid ESTA associated with that passport.
Okay.
So it's the ESTA is associated with the passport.
Yeah, but having the second passport in itself is not a problem.
Yes, having the second passport within itself is not a problem.
Okay. I told you before, like, Germans want to do it very correctly, and entering the correct first address is a very big issue. So customers will live in a new housing complex that is still being built, and the address cannot yet be found and entered in the system. It will only be finished when they travel. So what should they do?
Okay. Enter in the best address they can.
Yeah, get as close as you can.
As close as you can. Right. It's just simply not that big a deal for us. Again, it is really a means by which we can communicate or attempt to identify or find people if something earth-shattering happens, or for some reason the government needs to reach out and contact you. It's rarely used, if ever. So again, just enter the best address you can.
Got it. They really try to find the loopholes in the system, because you said what you said about the performers needing a visa. There's a follow-up question. A school children's orchestra is invited by a U.S. school to make a music or to have a concert together and give free concerts. Is it an ESTA or a visa?
Are they? They are not professionals.
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
Again, it's about being a professional.
Yeah, it's not a professional.
It's your profession. Now, if these are a group of K-pop stars who happen to be Germans, that might be a different issue.
Yeah.
But in that rare circumstance.
ESTA is good. If I travel with a visa or an ESTA, is there any difference of how of how strong the control at the port of entry is? So like how many questions you will be asked by the immigration officer. So is it the same interview with an ESTA or a visa, or is there a difference when you enter the country?
In general, there is no difference, because the determination by the officer and the questions they ask is based on the set of circumstances that they find in front of them. So it's not necessarily whether or not you're entering on a visa or an ESTA. It's more about what the officer sees, and based on that, the officer is going to make a determination on what questions they're going to ask. The only real difference between traveling under, or the primary difference, rather, I'll say that, not only one, but the primary differences between traveling on a visa and an ESTA is the length of stay. You can stay longer on the visa, and the ability to make an adjustment of status. So you can adjust your status on a visa, whereas on an ESTA, you can't do an adjustment of status. So, but those are the primary differences. Everything else, for the most part, not guaranteed, but for the most part, everything else is about the same.
All right. One more question about the address. In case of a transit, is it okay to just put in transit, or what should they add as a first address? If they
in the case of a transit, it is okay to put in transit, or you could put in, since all you're going to be is at that airport, you can use that airport's address, because that's the only place you're going to be at in the United States.
Okay. Yeah, got it. And then one more question about the length or validity of the ESTA. So if I enter the country 1 week before the expiration of the ESTA, when do I have to leave? Is it the 1 week, or is it 90 days?
Your admissibility period will still be 90 days. You only have, the ESTA has to be valid at the time of entry. The real question is, when does your passport expire? So if you have a 10-year passport and you just like said, okay, I have 2 years left on this, but I have 2 weeks left on my ESTA, so I'm going to make this trip because I don't want to pay for another ESTA, that's perfectly fine. You have a time on your passport, and your passport will still be valid. So when you return home, you can make a valid entry, then you'll be fine. If your passport expires in 2 weeks, then you will have a limited trip, because your admissibility period will not extend past your passport's expiration date, and your passport has to be valid to re-enter your country.
Yeah, got it. Perfect. Well, I think we really made it, Macharia. I think we answered all of the questions. So thank you very, very much for taking the time and the patience to answer all of our questions. And well, on behalf of everyone joining the webinar, thank you so much for taking the time to do this and to address all of our concerns and questions there may be. And of course, one more thing we need to add. Of course, whatever we just talked about, and for the recording, this is the current state as of November 2024. There may be new regulations coming into place. There may be changes. You never know. Usually it takes a long time for these changes to happen, I guess. But of course, there might be other changes coming up that have not been addressed in this webinar. So as of today, these are the answers and the valid answers that we got for today. Right?
That's a good point. It is November 2024. As we are all aware, there's a new administration coming in January. So we may have some changes. We don't anticipate any significant changes. But if there are changes, that's a good segue to say, go back to that QR code. Please make sure you sign up for ESTA Latitudes, and you will get all the new updates for what's going on in the visa waiver program if you sign up for ESTA Latitudes.
Perfect. All right. So everyone, thank you very much for taking the time, for being with us for over an hour, for an hour and 20 minutes to learn all about ESTA and find out about all the nuances there. And thank you very much, Macharia.
All right. Thank you, sir. And thank you, everybody, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Have a good day. Goodbye.
Goodbye.